Thank you, everyone. Good to have you here. This is quite a special day for various reasons, and I don't usually read from a script. I'm going to do that today because of the importance of this particular day and this moment in time. You've walked through, as you come into the building, you've seen all the name tags out there and what they represent. I'm going to start with asking all of us to rise for a minute's silence in remembrance of the people in Palestine will be lost.
Thank you. We have a very special person with us today, and I will tell you more about him as we go along. I'm reading out what I've talked about, and it's a slightly longer, again, for the same reasons. You've walked through those name plaques. They were living, breathing souls who were assassinated merely because they were doing their duty. They did much more than merely their duty. They showed the rest of the world what courage means. They epitomized self-sacrifice. Even if all the atrocities ended today, many in Gaza would die because their bodies have been so badly damaged from starvation. Of those who survive, many will have brain damage and permanent damage to vital organs. They will have to live with throughout their lives. Yet they resist. Others too resist. The flotillas that are sailing out as we speak know what happened to the flotillas for them.
Yet they sail. On the other hand, nations that have had the audacity of calling themselves the developed world have knowingly harmed and fed this war machine. They've actively prevented peace.
Their media have sanitized the assassinations while vilifying those fighting for their freedom. Like many others, my work has been cancelled in Germany. I've been attacked in the streets of New York, wearing a keffiyeh, demanding freedom from the oppressed, can be cause for arrest in Germany, USA, and UK. Global tech companies have actively provided intelligence to the war machines. They too have their fingers on the trigger. From the mid-80s to 4th of December 1990, I'd been documenting the people's struggle to bring down President Hossein Mohammad Ershad. I campaigned for photographers' rights, and certainly their right to be credited. But then, because I wanted to carry on working and not be picked up, I had deliberately left out the credit line. As it turned out, it didn't matter. No one was interested in the struggle for democracy in Bangladesh. After the fall, I had a show in Zainul Gallery, and in 3.5 days, we had nearly 400,000 people coming to see the show. We had near riots because of the interest in the work. In 1992, the work led to me becoming the first Asian to win Mother Jones. But then it had little international interest. In January 2011, I was running a photo workshop in Egypt. A few days after I left, Tahrir Square erupted. While I had left, an Al Jazeera journalist had stayed behind. There were no drones then, but there was Facebook and Twitter. He went up a tall building on Tahrir Square, and despite the risks, started dispatching pictures and live footage. The Al Jazeera network, based on Marai's work, played a key role in amplifying the movement and getting the word out to a global audience. In 18 days, it led to Hosni Mubarak's downfall. This time, the world was watching. This time, too, the world is watching, but that doesn't seem to matter. We are horrified by the extrajudicial killings, the disappearances that took place in our country. It could be done largely because they had impunity. Today, Israel has unimaginable impunity. Despite UN resolutions, despite almost the entire globe knowing they're committing murder every day of journalists, of aid workers, of children, women, and unarmed men, every day they shoot and kill starving people reaching out for food. This is happening as we speak. In 2018, when I was documenting the student protests, I was not so lucky and ended up being tortured and jailed. But in 2024, we too managed to topple a dictator. We took 36 days. However, the revolution in Egypt did not end in lasting reform. And the next time I went to Cairo, I found a very repressive space. Revolutions don't always lead to lasting change. We are facing an election. There will be a post-revolution elected government. But it is important that we do not follow Egypt's example. And one of the best ways to prevent the slide is to ensure we have a vibrant, robust, independent media. Drik has always stood by the oppressed, stood for justice. We have taken risks when others were silent. We paid a price, but continued nevertheless. We've tried to stay true to our moral compass. That is why we have invited a journalist who played such an important role in Egypt to present the Golam Kasem Lecture on our 36th anniversary. Golam Kasem was a pioneer in Bangladesh's photographic movement. He was not a journalist, but he had done one thing all good journalists need to have. He was curious and prepared to take risks. Drik had introduced email to Bangladesh in the early 90s, and Daddy started using email at the age of 101. We have, over the years, tried to find people with that same energy, courage, and the ability to accept new challenges to present the Golam Kasem Lecture series. I see Nurul Kabir here, who presented the lecture earlier. I feel proud and honored to present to you today the distinguished journalist and documentary filmmaker, Montaser Marai, a Palestinian-Jordanian who is the manager of media initiatives at the Al Jazeera Media Institute in Doha. Since joining Al Jazeera in 2002, he has served as a field correspondent, senior producer, and head of productions for the Al Jazeera documentary channel, creating impactful films like Sounds of Walls and Thieves of Baghdad. Currently, Marai trains journalists worldwide on AI, data journalism, and ethical reporting, emphasizing the amplification of marginalized voices. We've seen academics who know the theory and can tell you how journalism works, but few scholars know how to communicate with the general public. We have with us today a battle-hardened practitioner who knows how to communicate at a time when many of us have felt impotent against the Western complicity in genocide. Marai's recent work, including powerful posts on X, passionately advocates for Gaza, exposing global double standards in media coverage of journalists, killings and human rights abuses. Marai's first-hand experience in conflict zones and commitments to truth make him a vital voice for today's discussion at Drik on the Gaza genocide. And Palestine will be free. Marai, over to you. Shall I go to the podium? Yes. You can go there. And while you're doing that, while you go there, I'll just tell you something else. We have here today a picture from the January page of Drik's 2026 calendar. You can see what, maybe you can't see from there. It says, Biden, Blinken, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide. And that's something we must always remember. So this is available downstairs as well. But thank you for being here. And over to you.
Assalamu alaikum, good evening. Thank you, Brother Shahidul, for this opportunity, and thank you for Drik. Thanks for people in Bangladesh for the generosity and the appreciation I felt as a journalist and as a Palestinian. To be honest, I've been here only 5 days, running between different meetings and conversation with my colleagues. And I've seen like Palestine is there in every single corner and in the hearts of the people. And I've never knew about this before. So that's why I'm here, to build the bridges between my colleagues in Doha and in the Arab world as well, and journalists in the global south. including Bangladesh. Of course, yes, today I am somehow in a admin position, but I started as a journalist. And I've been like with Al Jazeera now 24 years. I grew up inside Al Jazeera. The first time I watched it, I was a student at university, where we used to record the programs and the news. We couldn't afford to buy a satellite in that time because we came from the streets. So we used to record it in some homes of our colleagues, and then we broadcast it at the university to watch Al Jazeera. And for the first time, where I grew up as a refugee in many countries, Arab countries, all the headlines and the news, it was about the presidents and the governments and the celebrities. We never saw ourselves on the TV. When I would start watching Al Jazeera, where Al Jazeera bringing the voice of the voiceless, I realized I exist. I start watching myself. And then I wanted to be in that place in Al Jazeera, and it happened. And I was lucky to be in the right time, in the right place. And we didn't go to Al Jazeera because we were looking for like a better job or a better salary, because we deserve to cross to democracy. We deserve to cross for dignity. We had a dreams. And Al Jazeera, it was a place that we can be really the voice of the voiceless, the voice of the margins, people marginalized. And the human beings are in the center of the coverage of Al Jazeera. So I was lucky to be in Al Jazeera and to get this experience, and we feel responsible also through my Al Jazeera Media Institute or my department is to empower our colleagues. We have this responsibility. So this is the non-profit arm of Al Jazeera, the Media Initiative Department, where we are responsible to deliver training and media development, supporting the conversation on journalism from within the Global South. Because most of the institutions that educating us about journalism is always in Europe or in the United States. And I think we deserve better appreciation. We have to appreciate ourselves, and we have the right to exist. I don't want to learn about Bangladesh through a proxy, through like academic papers in Europe or in news from United States. I want to know it directly from your people, from your journalists as well. Same when it comes to the Palestine or the Middle East, which is my topic. How is media playing a major role in framing us in Global South, in bringing a wrong image about us? And at the same time, I think it's complicit with the genocide in Gaza. I'll take you in a quick journey about what's going on. It's a longer presentation. I'll try to make it short, and please excuse my English because I'm not an academic. I'm just trying to tell you what I'm feeling and what I've been through during the last 2 years, observing the coverage on the war on Gaza and the genocide in Gaza in our newsrooms, and in my conversation where I am traveling, even in the Global South in general or in the North, questioning my colleagues and challenging the narrative of and the propaganda of the Israeli occupation. So I don't know, I've been here, while I'm being here, going to different universities or different institutions, I keep changing the number of the journalists killed in Gaza. While I'm here, at least I think maybe 3 have been killed. One of them is our colleagues, Islam Abid. She has been killed 2 days ago. So this is the number of the Palestinian journalists killed up to date, and I think the number is more than this, because there are so many media workers in satellite engineering or in sound or as fixers or even drivers. So many people have been killed and they are not recognized. What is more painful when you are looking to the international organizations, which I respect them, they are doing a good job, but look for the numbers. They are less than the number we are counting in Gaza. It's very painful to see that even some our colleagues, after their death, they are not even recognized. They are dying in the darkness as a journalist because the Israeli occupation want to silence any voice coming from Gaza or from Palestine. And we remember a few days ago, or even I think 10 days or more, when they targeted our tent, Al Jazeera tent in Gaza. They killed 5 journalists, among them our colleague Anas al-Sharif. Anas al-Sharif in my opinion, he's the best journalist in the world. He's 20 years old, and he came from the bottom of the streets. That's what we call the organic journalist. He looks like every single Palestinian in the refugees camps or in the marginalized places, and he had the opportunity to leave Gaza with his mother at the beginning of the war. He refused. He said, I have to be here, I have to be the voice of the people. When he died, he knew that they will target him. He was steering in the death, never afraid of that, keeping doing what he has to do. And this is our message all as a journalist, because we think that the thief, when he steals, he steals in the darkness, right? So all the journalists, they are same like the light, trying to keep the camera on, so the criminals, they will not steal the souls of the people. And that's what's happening in Gaza. We have all of us, we have to think why the Israeli occupation, they didn't allow any foreign reporter to go to Gaza. The second thing is that why they are targeting the journalists. This is the number, if you can see here. The first one on the left is the First and the Second World Wars, 69 journalists. Then the Korean War. Then the Vietnam and Cambodia and Laos War, 63. Then 43 in the war in Yugoslavia, 43. 65 in the war on Afghanistan, American war on Afghanistan. Then the Russian-Ukrainian war, 29. Look, in just 2 years. Never happened in the history, this massacre and genocide against journalism and journalists in Gaza, in the world. Never happened in the history. All of these female journalists have been killed. And I'm fed up with all Western institutions talking about the women's rights in the world. Feminism, where are the feminists? Please tell me where they are. Where are all the projects about empowering journalists, women, female journalists in the Arab region or in the global South? Nobody talking about that. And some of them, when they killed, they were pregnant. They left kids behind them, broken hearts. Do you remember this photo? When some people killed journalists in Paris from Charlie Hebdo magazine, and we are sorry for that because we don't accept any violation against any journalist all around the world. That's what it was really sad. And all the international leaders, the world leaders gathered in Paris to protest against targeting journalists. I think they were killed, 7 they were killed in that time. When some armed groups, they stormed the magazine and they killed the journalists. That was awful. And this was good to see the world leaders are protesting for killing like French journalists. Guess what? The killer of the Palestinian journalists is among them, who killed more than 250 journalists in Gaza. You can see how is the double standards in this world, that we don't have the same values. When they talk about equality, we don't see this. I'm sure if it is a foreign reporter killed in Gaza, the whole world will be crazy, right? But it doesn't matter because we are not counted, we are 0. Our destiny is to die in the darkness. And the problem doesn't come only from world leaders, even from our colleagues, journalists. If you see New York Times, when they talk about Anas al-Sharif, they are trying to discredit him. When they say Israeli killed Anas al-Sharif, Al Jazeera reporter who was accused by the Israeli government as a member of Hamas. They're trying to undermine his credibility. But I don't see New York Times saying the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is wanted by the ICC. They don't say that. They apply this on the Palestinians to undermine their narrative. Why they are promoting the Israeli propaganda. These are our colleagues. So everywhere I say, Anas al-Sharif and all our colleagues, they killed it twice. One by the Israeli occupation, and the second time by the international community and our colleagues in the international newspapers. This one of the Arabic intellectuals called Malik bin Nabi, he said this: the West does not carry its value outside its border, because all these values not designed for us. It is designed for certain color or certain group of people, not for all people. We are not equal all in this world. There is North, and unfortunately there is a south, and we didn't decide to be in the south. We don't want a divisions between this world. We are all equal, we are all humans, but they forced us to be in this position. So to understand what's going on in Gaza and how genocide works in media, I will take you a quick journey about how the traditional and digital media are working in this world. This is statistics is from 2022, and you can get information from YouTube because it's secret, but we managed to get some information. Can you imagine in every single minute, 500 hours uploaded per minute on YouTube, only YouTube. This is equal to 720,000 hours uploaded per day. If you calculate it, it will be 82 years of videos uploaded per day on YouTube only. Can you imagine this? It's more than all our history. It's bigger than all of us in this hall. More than Bangladesh history in the last 100 years. Which is crazy, the flood of information. This only in one platform is YouTube. Can you imagine there is a Facebook, there is a TikTok, there is Instagram, and so many. Can you imagine the flood? And it comes from where? From YouTube. Let's see. This from 2015, 10 years ago. We think that the flood of information that on the digital sphere or on social media, on digital platform is free. You can serve everywhere. You can go and watch whatever you want. You can follow like official or state TV channels on digital media or on digital platform. But actually, most of us, we are inside a bubble where we are controlled and the prison of like traditional media and digital media. In that time, it was Huffington Post, Amazon, Washington Post, New York Times, Google, etc. That was 10 years ago. So today, where we are, after this flood I've shown you by YouTube. Let's go back a little bit in history. This is the main Western mainstream media. Washington Post, New York Times, The Guardian, BBC, DW, ABC News, etc. And we know how they are controlling the narrative long time, over a century, not only today. And this is the news agencies, Associated Press, France Press, Reuters, and look when they are established, in the time of colonies. And I remember like Reuters was established in a time, it was the rise of the British empires, and we talk a little bit in details about it. I will give you one example about how traditional media is controlling the narrative, where we believe that this world is, we have a lot of diversity, a lot of options, pluralism, that we can watch anything we want, it's a free space, but actually it's not. This one example only. In the United States alone, 5 multinational companies or corporations controlling more than 1,400 daily newspapers, 6,000 assorted magazines, 10,000 radio, 2,700 TV stations, and 2,600 publishing houses. This only 5 companies only in the United States. Thousands of TV, traditional and digital media platforms are controlled by 5 companies. Can you imagine all of this? There is no diversity. And when you see all these companies concentrated in the hand of like a businessman or a big companies, they are not serving the public interest. They are not serving our interests or the human interests. They're serving their own interests and any political agenda linked to those people in the capitalism places. So let's go back to Reuters. Reuters, they had a secret agreement, I think in 2010, in 1910, with the British government to disseminate the news of the empire across all the colonies, including Bangladesh, India, Jordan, Egypt, because they were there. So they were serving the British empires, even it was described as an empire within the British Empire. And I put the source down so you can read more about this academic paper. Even the group of all these news agencies, like France Press or Associated Press, were established during the rise of the colonialism. They were described as a cartel dominating the international news distribution. Cartel is a terminology we use it for drug dealers, especially in Latin America. Can you imagine this? I remember in Al Jazeera, the hardest day was during our work was Sunday. Do you know why? Because most of news agencies are off this day, so the news feed goes to the minimum. So when we come to produce the news bulletin for our people in the Arab world, we couldn't find enough news to produce. We realized that we don't set the news agenda of people in the Arab world. It comes from this news agency who decided today Palestine could be a priority. No, today is another country. And we don't have enough news on the ground. So that's why today Al Jazeera, they have 70 offices around the world and many reporters. In addition, we work with many contributors on the ground, fixers, citizen journalists even as well. So this was all about traditional media. Let's see the digital media. Look for the big giants. YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, Reddit, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, everything. All of them in the United States, in San Francisco, except TikTok, which is belong to China. And that's why there is a war between the United States and China over TikTok, and they're trying to restrict it. So the flood always also, which coming on YouTube or all digital platforms, coming from almost one place. It's almost controlled. And long time in Al Jazeera, we realized that there is a flood of information coming from the north, from Europe, United States, from the rich countries, from the white countries to the south. And we're trying, as Al Jazeera, with different perspective, to shift this narrative from the global south to the north, to talk about ourselves, to counter the narrative and the flood coming from the north. And most of the time, we felt we are alone. We can't do this. We can't face all these TV channels and the platforms, and it's crazy. You can't fight alone. So when you go back to this, you will realize actually you are living in a bubble. This bubble is controlled, and you are present for a certain news outlets or digital platforms. Don't think you are free, or you are exposed to the alternative media or independent media or small media. They are struggling in the world because they are controlling them with algorithms, with restrictions, or with the floods. Today, many platforms, they are not allowing fake news to go on. No. They are using a new strategy. They are using facts. But these facts, they are flooding the internet with different news agenda. For example, while I was watching the genocide in Gaza and crying over the night, everybody was watching what? The wedding of Jeff Bezos, the owner of the Amazon, right? It was flooded the internet with this news. Everybody's taking this, sharing, etc. It was flooded, and you can't reach any news about Palestine or Gaza. And add over this, another layer is the algorithms, which restricting the content. So sometimes when we have any simple news in Al Jazeera, it goes, wow, viral. But when we post about Gaza, we are struggling. We talk to Meta, what's the problem? They said, no, there is no problem. But under the table, they are shadow banning Al Jazeera. And they shadow banning every single alternative media or independent media to reach the people. And in Al Jazeera, we receive many complaints from independent journalists or independent platform that they can't reach, or they are restricted, or sometimes they have a punishment from Meta or other digital platform under something called community ethics. We don't know what this is ethics. When I show something like real on Gaza, there is no violation of that. So what we are trying of Al Jazeera is not to be the best or the first in the world, but trying to take the people out of this bubble, to be exposed for alternative media, for independent media. We want this world to be diversity, and then people can decide who is right, who is wrong. I have the right to watch Al Jazeera or BBC, and then I can make my opinion. But we need a free flow of information, which we are struggling. We're struggling with international values that brought to us by this Western institution. but they don't apply it. DW, which I believe they are complicit with genocide. You can't speak in Germany. You can't protest. We are watching these days like how they are arresting people, suppressing them. But I'm surprised to see them like a conference in Morocco or in Tunisia recently about the free flow of information, freedom of expression, right of people to access the information. But we can't access it in Germany. I was in Berlin like a few months ago, and when you watch all mainstream German media, is only the Israeli propaganda. Even it's not the Israeli facts, only the propaganda where you don't see any voice of Palestine on their TV at all. So everybody of us, by the algorithms, by a big flood of information, we are inside this bubble. We have to go out of it. And that's what Al Jazeera is trying to do, either on the level of the news or on the level in media development, what we are doing to empower our colleagues. We need a free world. We need our voices to be heard. So I'll take all this media hegemony, digital hegemony, digital slavery, to see how it's going in Gaza. And I'm showing you like a very small picture why it's what's happening on the ground is more horrible. This is the prominent BBC. Shock and horror at scene of Gaza blast. Thank you, BBC, because you are reporting about Gaza. But please tell me from where the bomb came. Who sent the bomb? Who killed those people? They are using a passive language. They don't point to the killer. They don't mention that the Israelis are the killers. And this is wrong practice. This is a violation of all values and ethics in journalism. We teach this to our students. And you come to teach us different things when you come to the Arab world, but when you apply it to you, why don't you show who is the killer? Always we have to verify it. But if anything came from Gaza, it's sure they are terrorists. Look for this. And 3 days apart from 2 stories. On the right, airstrike on Gaza school kills at least 15 people. Amazing. They don't mention the killer. Who killed those civilians? Who targeted the school? But when it comes to Ukraine, it's 5 killed by Russian. Strike in central Ukraine. It's very obvious. How did they could verify it is from Russia, and they can't verify it that it's from the Israeli occupation? You can see double standards and a few days only between the 2 stories. This is New York Times, same. Deadly strike hits northern Gaza hospital where many were sheltered. They don't mention the killer. But when it comes to Russia, to Ukraine, Russia strikes children's hospital in deadly barrage across Ukraine. It's obvious, and there is hundreds of these examples. Every day we are monitoring this, and we see journalism is not okay. Look, the CNN. Children are dying of starving in their parents' arms as famine spread through Gaza. Thank you, CNN, for talking about the famine in Gaza. But they show it as it looks like a natural disaster or because of the climate change. We don't mention that the Israeli occupation cut the food, cut the water, cut the electricity, which under the international humanitarian law, it's a war crime. It's a war crime. So they are covering for the killers. They are disinforming people. Same, New York Times, Associated Press, CNN, Reuters, nobody is mentioning that Israel is the reason of the famine. Look, all of this. The same news institutions or media outlets or digital platform I've mentioned at the beginning, controlling the narrative and the flood of information over more than 100 years, the same. They're controlling everything narrative and disinforming people. And when I travel to some countries who are disinformed, they believe in this, unfortunately. Because at the same time, when they go on social media, they can't reach us. They can't watch Al Jazeera because algorithms, it doesn't show them Al Jazeera on their timeline. It doesn't show like Middle East Eye. It doesn't show like Palestinian TV. It doesn't show Palestinian platforms. We are restricted. And you can see this if you travel to other countries. You can see when your Facebook adjusts, for example, to the geolocation, so the timeline change. And I think this bias is not something that we discovered today because of the war of Gaza. It was there a long time. It's constructed within the system, in the mainstream Western media, in the Western structure. It's constructed, it's there a long time. But now it's become very, very obvious. So I don't think it's not only a constructional bias, it's controlling the flow of information from north to the south. It's disinformation and failing global journalism ethics and the practices. They failed us. They betrayed our colleagues in Gaza. All the values, they failed us. They shattered our faith on all these global values in journalism and ethics that we believed when I was young. I grew up learning journalism from the BBC radio, from my father's radio. And I said I wanted to be a journalist. I like this reporting, but they failed us. It's not a global value as we believed. As I said, it's designed for a certain group of people. So, what are the key problems of journalism coming from North? So what's the problem? Let me explain a little bit from my experience, not as an academic. Always there is a top-to-down view. There is a superiority in moral superiority, social superiority, culture, everything. There is somebody always in the top, and we are in the bottom. We have always to listen. And I'm sad from my colleagues, even in Europe, for example. I was with colleagues from Germany, and they are sympathize with Palestine. But when I questioned them, when I criticized them, they didn't accept this from me. Because the system built is that I'm in the bottom, they are in the top. They are creating the ethics, the values, and I'm just receiving, translating in my education system, in my NGOs training. White people come to train us, to educate us. So it's not accepted to shift this, because we are not equal. I'm in the bottom. So there is always a superiority in all this stuff. We are in the bottom, and we are trying to shift this to be equal, but it doesn't happen. We are struggling in this. It's always loaded with ideology, political, cultural, or social agenda, always. Any training coming, for example, when NGOs coming to train in Bangladesh, in Somalia, always they have a social agenda. Always they have political agenda. So, Western media, that's why it doesn't look like free. I think they are all the time, when it comes to international issues, they are aligned with their own policy. You can, I think, if you read the history, or my generation in invading Afghanistan or invading Iraq in 2003, most of the newspapers, they were aligned with their foreign policy. I didn't see New York Times against the war in Iraq. And we'll talk about this. Here, Liz Cheney, the ex-House representative in the United States, she was talking how she is proud the US aid, it was a tool to counter Soviet Union in the Cold War. So it wasn't innocent US aid. It wasn't for the sake of people in the global south or in the poor country or in the marginalized country. It's a tool in the hand of these empires. It was a tool in the hands of capitalism. It's coming with an agenda. It's not innocent. Why we are requested to be more professional and freed from anything? So after all of that, is it convincing that the Western media and in Western institutions, they really want to promote the values of democracy and the freedom of expressions in our country? When they come for a training, when they come for conferences, et cetera, et cetera. Is it convincing after all of that? One of the key issues that I believe is that international media institutions, they stripped the human right discourse of its political and cultural local context. If in France they have a problem with feminism or any social issue, it doesn't mean it's a problem for Palestine or a problem for Bangladesh. We have a different agenda, we have a different priorities, we have a different problems. You can't bring some issues to our countries. It looks like national agenda. Why you apply it to me? Why don't we have also the right to fight for our battles in liberation and democracy? If I do anything, no, it's terrorism. It's not a struggle. When it comes to you, it's a struggle. And as this is funny how long time ago Franz Fanon talked that black skin, white masks. They want us to be copy of them. But I live in Bangladesh. I live in Palestine. I look same like my people. Why don't you want to be like a black skin and a white mask? And the problem I see, I had a training one time in my life with a Western organization, and was struggling to get that training, and they keep rejecting me. And then after trying many times, they accepted me, and I found I was a field reporter, fixer. I came from the street. I'm from a village. I found all the people in this training by this Western organization is that people, rich people, living in the center. They know how to speak English very well, how to approach these NGOs. And I found like 3 ladies from a fashion magazine in the training. I told them, why keep rejecting me? I saw those people, they are not relevant about journalism and the human rights. I have the priority. So it's not now a problem with these Western NGOs because they realize the game. Now they withdraw from our countries, and now they are hiring people looks like us. Black skin, white mask, and they're doing worse than colonialism. They are worse than those people in their agenda. They don't belong really to our people. They don't look like us. No, better bring these Western organizations. At least I know who they are. Why our people who are working for those organizations, they don't realize what is our agendas or priorities. That's why now if you go to social media in the Arab world, all the trainings is about what? It's a trend about journalism and the climate change. It's because of the fund. There is a fund coming from Europe, United States, about the climate change. People are dying in Gaza. What about the climate change in Gaza? How many bombs dropped on Gaza? They changed the climate in Gaza for 200 years. The soil is poisoned. The people are killed. The genocide. And they are focusing in the climate change in the Arab world, and everybody is promoting this, going to training. It's not our priority now. It's not. But because of the fund, everybody is working in that. So in Global South, always we used to struggle to liberate ourselves from any authority, dictatorship, censorship, etc., etc. But today, unfortunately, we have to struggle also about Western mainstream media, digital platform, algorithms, which become an authority itself. We were struggling in Al Jazeera because of censorship everywhere. They're shutting down our office. They arrest our colleagues. America bombed our office in Afghanistan, and Iraq killed our colleagues. Israel is killing our colleagues. We were struggling of this. But today, we have more layers coming from algorithms. Digital platforms, they promote like freedom of expression, free flow of information, but actually, no, it become a new authority that we have more to struggle to reach people. So I can summarize this, that colonialism left from the door and back from the window, simply as that. One of the key issues also is that in the Global South, always we are judged by the North standards. When I see NGOs coming for training or news media outlets, when they come to the South, they are bringing their standards to our Global South. What applies in Somalia doesn't, what applies in Switzerland, it doesn't apply in Somalia. They have different priority, different challenges. I used to work in Somalia, and when I start asking the international organizations to work with me, always they asking me to focus on journalism and gender sensitivity. I told them in Somalia, they don't know how to tell stories. They don't know how to use the camera. Let's teach them professional journalism. Keep the agenda aside. Boys, it's no, we have to focus on gender sensitivity. They don't know how to tell their stories. Why don't you empower them and they can tell their own stories from their own voices? Why have always a white man has to teach them a social agenda while I'm talking about professionalism, journalism? So always we struggled when we're working with international organizations. And I was, at my last visit in Somalia, I saw like United Nations taking group of journalists, teaching them about journalism and international humanitarian law, which they failed us in Gaza about this, these values. And it's not a priority for those journalists who, please teach them journalism first. And all this stuff, it will come. But no, they are focusing on social agenda, political agenda, cultural agenda, which doesn't apply to our communities. Nothing to mention that also we are struggling from the parachute journalism or framing us. Every journalist coming, like I met many of my colleagues, some of them are really good, and they have done great coverage in our region. We have to appreciate this and recognize this. But at the same time, many of them, it seems like new Orientalism. They are framing us, they come with like a certain ideas, a certain understanding about our countries, about our communities, and they want to apply it. They don't give themselves opportunity to discover these communities as it is, to tell the truth as it is. So before it's late, I think this is an invitation. And wherever I travel, I talk to my colleagues, you have to review your ethics and the practice and values. You have to question it. Everywhere I travel. And I ask them to do this before it's too late. And unfortunately, look how many killed in Gaza. This one example. Guardian apologized after 100 years for supporting the Balfour Declaration. You can check it online. After 100 years, after we lost Palestine, after we have millions displaced, millions refugees, many killed in this war. In that time, the Guardian supported the Balfour Declaration and they apologized after 100 years. Because in the 100th anniversary, they did a review for everything, and this was one of the main topics they mentioned. The New York Times supported the war, the invasion of Iraq in 2003. We hear a lot about New York Times investigative reporting, etc., but we didn't see this in Iraq. But to be honest, the weapons of mass destruction, they will exist in Iraq. They will exist, to be honest. We can't hide this. Do you know where? In mainstream Western media. You can find it only in the Western media, not in the ground. And New York Times, they apologized after like 1 year. They say we were wrong in Iraq. 1 million killed in Iraq. 1 million. And that's when I said before that most of these newspapers or media, Western media outlets, they are always aligned with their foreign policy. On domestic coverage, you see they are professional. But when it comes to the international news, they are always aligned with their foreign policy. They don't go out of this. Look for this interesting story by The Atlantic. I think 2 months ago, the National Security and the Defense Minister in the United States, Defense Secretary, they established a group on Signal before bombing Yemen. Right? I think everybody remember this story. And they said, by mistake, they added the chief and editor of The Atlantic prominent newspaper. So he was watching the conversation on the group, and it became a scandal next day that they were planning to bomb Yemen. Good. Now the editor-in-chief, the journalist with great values and ethics, he saw the conversation, he saw the plan. But when he published the story, after bombing Yemen, not before. Imagine if there is a terrorist attack about United States. Are he going to wait after the attack? Don't we learn that journalism is saving people's lives? So you see how his editorial agenda is not the people's souls or lives in Yemen. It's his story. So he published it after it's too late, bombing Yemen and civilians killed in that bombing. So you can see this behavior and pattern internationally and in Gaza. This is our colleague Wael Dahdouh, when he lost his son, and before that his granddaughter and his wife and another son. And he was the voice of Gaza, the voice of the world, actually. We were I used to feel safe when I see Wael and to listen to him in that time. So it's easy like to target any journalist. Then you say sorry. Every year in 2nd of November, we celebrate the world to track the killers or anybody violating the rights of the journalists or attacking journalists. But actually, this is the way to escape from punishment. To say sorry after you commit the crime. This exactly is impunity. It's impunity. And we can't bring those people to justice. So that's why I think we learn from the day one that journalism is about monitoring the centers of power, the authorities, to question them, to be the voice of the people. But unfortunately today, we have to question the media itself. I think some media outlets, some journalists, they are complicit in the genocide. They are complicit, justifying the violation of international humanitarian law. When they say that Israel bombed the hospital because they are going after Hamas or fighters, they are justifying to targeting civil buildings. This is against the law. This is a war crime. When you adopting the Israeli propaganda, it's a war crime. We learn to question the centers of power, to fact check the Israeli propaganda. But no, they are manufactured actually. Because when the Israeli spokesperson, he said something, the New York Times or Washington Post or mainstream Western media, they take it as a matter of fact. Then they reproduce it and you manufacture it as a statement. Then it become a fact and circulating everywhere. Same today. They bombed a huge building in Gaza, and the Defense Ministry, IDF, they disseminated a video saying this building, it has a center for the resistance in Gaza and cameras to watch the Israeli. It's a big building and distracted. But it's a propaganda, even it's a fake. Who is going to verify it? After they bombed the building and distracted to the ground, who's going to verify that? But the Israeli propaganda is circulating where? In the professional media, unfortunately. So I think now, same like Rwanda. In Rwanda genocide, some radio station and the newspaper went to the court because they were complicit in genocide, justifying killing people, dehumanizing those people. Same in Gaza. Why? I can't imagine if this happened any spot in the world will accept it. But it's accepted in Gaza. We cry a little bit and then we go to continue our life. I don't know what's the world like, what happened to this planet, accepting a daily live stream genocide. It's not examining for the values and ethics of journalism. It's examining for all humanities. It's not accepted in Gaza or in any part of the world, but it's happening. It's happening live. So for the end of my life, I will track all news media outlets complicit in the genocide. If this was the last mission in my life, I'll keep doing it, exposing them and to bring them to the justice. We have to bring those people to the court, same like the killers, till the last day of my life. Thank you for listening. Thank you. It's hard to live with this every day and to keep even talking about it and normalizing with the death in Gaza. You keep crying in the evening, and in the morning you resume your life is hard. And because we feel something broken inside us, something broken, I've heard it in my heart. But we have nothing to do except like talking to people. Talking to people who can listen. In some places, nobody is listening to you. They're ignoring this. You saw Charlie Hebdo, how the world went crazy, and in Gaza, nobody cared about that. The people, the civilians, and when you look for investigative reporting, sometimes they put huge resources to discover a little corruption here or there, especially in our countries. Good. Gaza, it doesn't need investigative reporting. It's live on air. Just talk about it. But they are using all the tools to verify. No, we have to fact check this. They created tools to make us thinking in a work why it's a fact, while the Israeli occupation propaganda is circulating everywhere. I don't want like to lose the faith in all these values, human values. Sometimes I say we have to be the custodian of these values. If they failed us, we have to be the guardian of these values. We have to take responsibility because it's in our history, in our culture. We have these values long time ago. We have to keep it. We have to protect it. And we'll keep doing this. And hopefully that we see this from our colleagues, not only for the sake of Palestine, for the sake of Bangladesh, for the sake of the humanity. We keep the voices of our colleagues killed in Gaza. Keep it alive. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Montaser. We realize that this is very personal for you, and not just making a speech, but something that comes from your heart. It's been absolutely scintillating. It's a completely packed audience. I can see many people standing who haven't had a chance to sit. So this is a reflection of how important the subject is to all of us. Thank you, Montaser, for what you've done and what you will continue to do. And what he did mention was that while he's been here, he's met journalists, educational institutions, training institutions, many different types of organizations. This is the beginning. There is also Bilal here somewhere. So there's another gentleman from Al Jazeera who's here. Hopefully this will be the first of many visits in both directions. But right now, thank you. We can continue this conversation on level 9, where refreshments are there. Thank you very much.